called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Allen Houston never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Nobody called themselves the greatest in anything but that man and his camp.
And Michael and Magic, and they always will say, wait a minute.
So did I.
They point to other guys, as you know, and say, wait, I'm the greatest. There's one guy in the history of sports I give total pass to saying I'm the greatest, and that's where GOAT comes from, Muhammad Ali.
In today's episode of NBA, we step into a debate that has stirred strong opinions among basketball fans of all ages. This conversation has lasted for years and continues to divide opinions across generations. Stephen A. Smith, one of the most recognizable and influential voices in sports media, once again questions how we define greatness in the NBA. His argument goes beyond championships, awards, or career length. At the heart of it is something far more personal and lasting. Respect. The discussion centers on whether respect is something a player earns over time or something they can openly claim for themselves. Stephen A. does not hold back as he compares the quiet confidence of legends like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Tim Duncan with the more outspoken approach often associated with LeBron James. This episode breaks down 7 key quotes from Stephen A. Smith and Michael Wilbon, offering insight into why LeBron's pursuit of the greatest of all time title feels different. Some argue that difference is bold, while others see it as a weakness. Stay with us as we walk through each viewpoint and explore what truly defines lasting greatness. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Should greatness speak for itself, or is it fair to claim it out loud? Stephen A. begins the debate with an honest statement that immediately grabs attention. He makes it clear that he does not question LeBron James' talent, achievements, or long-term excellence. LeBron's impact on the game is undeniable, and his success is well documented. However, Stephen A. firmly states that there is still one player who stands above everyone else in NBA history, and that player is Michael Jordan. This conclusion is not based on emotion or popularity. According to Stephen A., it comes from evaluating the complete picture, including influence, performance, and how a player shaped the league itself. He explains that when all the arguments, comparisons, and debates are set aside, only one name consistently remains at the very top. That name is Jordan. This belief sets the foundation for the entire discussion. While LeBron is viewed as a once-in-a-generation talent, Jordan is remembered as a once-in-a-lifetime sports figure. The difference goes beyond numbers and awards. It shows up in how each player was viewed, how they handled pressure, and how their presence changed the game. Stephen A. suggests that Jordan's legacy stands untouched, not because others lack greatness, but because his greatness never needed explanation. It was widely accepted without debate. The standard was set long ago, and in his view, that standard remains unmatched.
There's only one player we look at and we say definitively we think was better, and that was Michael Jordan.
Stephen A. takes the discussion even further by pointing out what he believes is a key difference between LeBron James and the legends who came before him. According to him, players like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar never felt the need to publicly announce themselves as the greatest of all time. They didn't push narratives or seek validation through interviews or headlines. Instead, they focused on winning, competing, and letting their careers speak for them. Over time, fans and analysts reached their own conclusions without being guided. In contrast, Stephen A. argues that LeBron James and those around him have actively promoted the GOAT conversation. From televised interviews to repeated social media moments, the message is pushed again and again. To Stephen A., this doesn't feel organic. It feels structured, almost like an organized effort to shape how history should remember him. When greatness has to be explained or defended, it naturally invites more debate instead of settling it. Stephen A. reminds viewers that when Michael Jordan retired for the final time, there was no confusion about his place in the game. He didn't ask for recognition or make public claims about his status. His record, his competitive edge, and his impact on basketball had already answered every question. That kind of respect came naturally and stayed unquestioned. By comparison, LeBron's repeated statements about being the greatest can come across as insecurity rather than confidence. Stephen A. leaves the audience with a direct and thought-provoking question. If someone truly is the greatest ever, why do they feel the need to say it themselves?
Trying to compel people to say he was the greatest. Michael Jordan didn't say that about himself. Kobe Bryant didn't say that about himself. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar didn't say that about himself.
Continuing his criticism, Stephen A. brings up several names that are forever linked to true greatness and long-lasting impact. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Russell, and Tim Duncan are all mentioned as examples. None of these players ever refer to themselves as the greatest of all time. They trusted their achievements, championships, and consistency to speak on their behalf. Fans, former players, and basketball historians were the ones who gave them that recognition, not the players themselves. Stephen A. also points to Stephen Curry, widely accepted as the greatest shooter the game has ever seen. Despite changing how basketball is played and setting records that may never be broken, Curry has never publicly claimed that title for himself. To Stephen A., that silence says a lot. The most respected athletes often share one important quality: humility. Even while performing at the highest level, their confidence shows in their play, not in their words. What troubles Stephen A. is that LeBron James and those around him appear to have moved away from that unwritten standard. Through documentaries, interviews, and strong media presence, the effort to lock in LeBron's GOAT status feels carefully managed. Rather than allowing time and public opinion to decide, the message is pushed early and often. Stephen A. believes this approach lacks patience and restraint. Greatness, in his view, should be recognized naturally over time. When it is promoted too aggressively, it risks weakening the legacy that is still being written instead of strengthening it.
Trying to compel people to say he was the greatest. Michael Jordan didn't say that about himself. Kobe Bryant didn't say that about himself. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar didn't say that about himself.
Stephen A. offers a sharp example that goes beyond positions, roles, or playing styles. When people are asked who the greatest shooter in NBA history is, the answer is almost always the same: Stephen Curry. Yet Curry himself has never stepped forward to claim that title. Even Ray Allen, whom Curry passed on the all-time three-point list, never labeled himself the best shooter either. That pattern is important. It shows that even when the proof is clear and widely accepted, the true greats stay grounded and let others speak for them. This point, Stephen A. explains, goes beyond basketball knowledge or stats. It comes down to respect. Curry allows his numbers, his influence on the game, and the opinions of fans and experts to define his legacy. He doesn't rush the conversation or try to control it. In contrast, Stephen A. believes LeBron chose to speed up that process by publicly placing himself at the top. Instead of letting history unfold naturally, he stepped into the spotlight and made the claim himself. By doing that, Stephen A. argues LeBron invited more criticism than necessary. Public declarations bring heavier scrutiny and constant comparison. Stephen A. makes it clear that this isn't just about defending Michael Jordan. It's about protecting a long-standing culture in sports where greatness is earned over time, not announced early. When someone crowns themselves, people look for reasons to challenge it. But when others do the crowning, that respect tends to last. LeBron's dominance is undeniable, but in the eyes of Stephen A., humility is still the trait that earns lasting reverence.
Say that about himself. Tim Duncan didn't say that about himself. Nobody said that. Nobody but him.
Stephen A. Smith strengthens his argument by highlighting something that is extremely rare in professional sports: openly declaring yourself the greatest. He points out that LeBron James and those closest to him are the only ones regularly calling him the greatest of all time. Among elite athletes, this kind of self-praise has traditionally been discouraged. Throughout NBA history, the GOAT discussion was never decided by the players themselves. It was left to fans, analysts, and historians to debate and decide over time. Stephen A. explains that legends like Michael Jordan, Tim Duncan, and Bill Russell never stepped into that conversation on their own behalf. They trusted their performances, championships, and influence to shape public opinion naturally. When athletes take control of that narrative themselves, they risk pushing away the very voices whose respect matters most. Instead of building agreement, it can create resistance and skepticism. Stephen A. draws a clear boundary here. In his view, LeBron is actively driving a message rather than allowing it to grow from what happens on the court. That leads to uncomfortable questions. Why does the claim need to be repeated so often? Why doesn't the wider basketball world echo it with the same intensity? Stephen A. believes the answer is straightforward. The truly great players never needed to say it out loud. Their play spoke quietly but powerfully to millions of fans. Importantly, Stephen A. makes it clear that he is not dismissing LeBron's achievements. His success, numbers, and influence are undeniable. However, he urges fans to recognize the difference between accomplishment and presence. Jordan had both, and that combination created lasting certainty. LeBron's decision to promote his own status, Stephen A. argues, has introduced doubt where there should have been none. And that, more than anything, is what makes this discussion so revealing.